Hey, welcome to my studio. So this is where I work. Today is clean because of the you are a guest here, but basically this is my working table, and after I work here, I put everything in my scanner, and then I work on it on the computer. So I'm surrounded by my sketchbooks, books, CDs, my music, and so this is my ideas lab and drawing lab. My name is Felipe Galindo Gomez, also known as Feggo. That's my pen name as a cartoonist. I'm originally from Cuernavaca, Mexico. And from there I went to Mexico City to study art in college, visual arts, at the main university. And after a few years, after college I began to do cartooning, and after a few years I decided to try my luck in New York. In 1983, I'm still here. Originally my plan was to go for 6 months, and they ended up being the longest 6 months of my life. I specialize in cartooning and illustration mostly, but I also am attracted to do other works. I do collage, I work with my sketches, incorporated them into disposable materials, so that creates a new body of work. I like to come up with projects. One of the most that I like a lot is Manhattan, in which I combine Mexican culture with American cultures here in New York. So that will give you an example of what I do. I like also to do occasionally animations. And I have also gone into public art with my humorous drawings. So. I always liked to draw. I still remember when I was like 4 years old, I began to do drawings of submarines and airplanes because I was watching TV, and there used to be a lot of war films, and I like them. So my mother noticed that I like to draw, so she always encouraged me, gave me sketchbooks, and so I continue to do that in my spare time. That's what I spend my time doing, drawings, and at certain point I began to discover humor magazines, and that's when something clicked in me that not only I was able to do drawings but also come up with ideas. As I was saying, I was born in Cuernavaca. This is a town that has many visitors from all over the world, especially Americans, because they got to study Spanish there. There were many schools. And there was one particular store that had magazines for Americans. And my aunt used to work at that store. So I used to visit her, and then I discovered two magazines in particular. One was Math magazine, and the other one was called National Lampoon. And I couldn't believe in these magazines that there were artists making fun of the American way of life. So they were being very satirical, and that opened my mind. I was like 12 years old when I saw this. And so I began to have that interest in the American culture through music and film and art. So, but at the same time, I liked those cartoons, and I said, I would like to do this one day. I would like to be a cartoonist. And that kind of dream came true because later, when I moved to New York, I was able to work for those magazines and meet a lot of the heroes I admired when I was a kid. And now I will be their colleague and also their competition. So that's how I really got into cartooning. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to show you briefly was my evolution from doing geometric art when I was in college up until I began to do my cartooning career. Yes, in college, I was in a sculpture class with our teacher was a famous sculptor named Sebastian, and I was doing geometric art, which I also, for my own projects, I was doing a series called El Plano Estructural. So this is the type of imagery I was doing, very abstract, geometric abstract, and I participated in several exhibitions. You can see here, and then we were chosen to represent Mexico in a biennial of young artists in Paris, and this is the type of project that we did. It was more architecture related, but in space. It was like a space project. We were really going into fiction. And after college, as I said, I was more inclined to do humor. This is what I was doing when I was during college. I was contributing to this newspaper from the university. So they gave me, they published 5 or 6 cartoons every issue. So I was already making a living, let's say, as a cartoonist. And after that, I began to work for another magazine called La Garrapata, which was very political, but also they allowed me to do cartoons with fiction, and I was always working with animals. I was making funny images of animals, and then I was invited to a newspaper to contribute with a comic strip. So my character name was Severiano, which is an artist always looking for work and always getting into situations, funny situations. Like in this case, they hired him to do makeup, and he ended up doing a face like Picasso and getting into trouble, or having fictional trips to the moon, or working here for a landowner who wants to do agricultural stuff in his land, and he hires him because he's good doing lines. The same here, problems with the language. Again, with another impresario asking him to do work for him, but he hired him as a sunshine because he's very good with chiaroscuro. So always making fun of this, of my own career as an artist. So as you can see, I was informed by my art school and the art history, and I apply everything to my work, to my comic strips. And also, this was a good training because it was a weekly thing, so I had to really push myself. Sometimes you bump into a writer's block, but we were a team of cartoonists and we helped each other to try to overcome those difficulties. But it was a good camaraderie until, unfortunately, there was a economic crisis in Mexico, and the newspaper had to shoot down our comic section, which later was revived in another newspaper. Let's see, for example, example of let me see. I'm gonna show you one specific. This is my treasure. Was a letter from Justice Sotomayor that I did a cartoon about her, and she sent me a thank you note. This, for example, it's a whole album made of Formula One cartoons. I was invited to submit cartoons for a magazine from Red Bull, because Red Bull has teams of Formula One. So I began to publish with them, and this is, for example, how I classify them. And so all these were scanned, and this is I used to work here traditionally still. I was doing a lot of watercolor, but nowadays I will do a line drawings, for example, like this, and then I will add the color on the computer. So this is the way I work, and this is the way I used to classify them. Not anymore. Now mostly everything is digital. It's in the computer, because it was taking a lot of space, as you can see here. I have thousands of cartoons. Oh, sorry. So even this, I'm gonna get rid of them because they take too much space. I have to do more like a compressed version of my filing system, because it's very big. And now with the computers, it's easier to have access to all that you have done. So we have to keep up with the modern times. And okay. When I came to New York, the New Yorker was also one of the main, the most coveted magazines that everybody wants to publish. It was not my first choice, because it was a different kind of humor, but also I began to submit my cartoons there. It took me longer to get there, because it was a very challenging market. Many cartoonists apply there, and but I was finally able to get one in the 2002, and it had to do with my Mexican heritage. It's a cartoon about a mouse serenading his sweetheart, as you will see it in the sample. And since then I have been publishing with them regularly. Now there are a lot of younger cartoonists also breaking into the magazine, so there is more competition, let's say, but it's a good healthy competition.
What are they called?
Chuck Moll. It was from the Toltec culture, and then Maya Toltec. I have heard that the expression of you're half Mexican, half American, or half Italian, or half other nationalities, but I didn't like that. I like to say that I am full Mexican, but also now that I live in the US, I'm a full American. And in order to do that, I have to know their cultures. So that's what I have been doing all throughout my life, learning about both cultures, and they're very rich, and so that's what I consider myself, like full Mexican, full American. I think it's very important to do that. Otherwise, I think you're not complete. Let's say you're lacking something. I made a little album of of my sketchbooks. So I have them with numbers and what is inside them. So they have the dates and what's inside the books, the sketchbooks. So for me it was a good excuse to go through all my sketches, and it was a great exhibition. I hope to do a book about it. So this is the way I'm organizing my sketchbooks, because at one point I was relying on my memory, but sometimes there is only so much information you can have in your memory, in your head. So I organize it, as I said, to years and what's inside the sketchbook, which can range from a trip to just sketches from the subway to anything. So and I'm running out of space so far. So by now I have more than 100 sketchbooks and notebooks, and many more still empty. So hope to fill them one more day. But yes, I have my method to my madness. You tell me. Well, an advice I would like to give to aspiring cartoonists, it's basically just to practice. I mean, come up with an idea, try to tweak it, change characters, do research. I mean, look at other cartoonists' work and try to see how they tackle their problems. Try to learn from all your mistakes, and try to come up with different approaches until you find what is good for you and satisfies you. Also, don't feel bad if you get rejections, because that's part of life. We're always gonna get rejections. Being an artist, it's basically it's a lot of freedom, because in your mind you are exploring many things. I have an insatiable curiosity for everything. That's what I like to observe, to read, to see, to hear, and everything informs me. So in a way, I think an artist has all those things in their mind, and that as an artist you discover what do you want. I have many aspirations to do this or that. So when archaeologists discover pyramids or tombs, or basically it's art what stays there, that gives us a sense of what was before. So in that sense, I think art is always going to be like a testimony of humankind. I mean, starting from the caves also, from the paintings on the caves. So being part of that, it's really makes me feel proud that I have that in my mind, and I'm able to do it in the different mediums that I tackle. So it is very rewarding, and I'm always fascinated by what other artists do, and I try to learn. I try to get inspired by them as well. So it's always a back and forth dialogue, let's say, between me and other artists. And it's like talking with the dead, right? Because you're seeing people. I mean, art from many centuries ago, and you're communicating with them. They're talking to you in a way. So I hope to do the same with my art for future generations.